On Overdrive this week, we soak in the luxury of the MG M9, now available via the brand's first select showroom in India. And we check out a new trim in the very popular Mahindra 3XO. Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I am Soini Dutt. Earlier this year at the Bharat Mobility Expo, MG Motor India announced that they would be launching two new premium products via the select showroom in India. Well, the select showroom has finally debuted in the country in Thane, and it's now time to find out just how premium and luxurious the MG M9 MPV truly is.
You hear that? It's completely silent. Usually when we open doors to an MPV like this, you hear the burble of a diesel or maybe the thrum of a petrol engine. But silence, that's usually restricted for the Kia EV9 or even a Toyota Vellfire on battery mode. But even that is a rare party trick. Because you see, Toyota, bless them, believes that going all electric is just a phase. So as far as I can tell, an all-electric Vellfire, that's not happening anytime soon. And even if it does, you would have to spend over a crore and a high cross to be able to get one. But what if you could get that same lounge on wheels experience minus the Toyota tax and go electric anyway? That's the very idea behind this car. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the new MG M9.
Or like our neighbors like to call it, the Maxus MIFA 9. It's massive, it's opulent, and it costs about half as much as the EV9, while trying its best to cosplay as a Vellfire. MG promises it will spoil you silly in the second row. The question really is, does it actually feel like a 70 to 80 lakh rupee luxury car? Or is it just a well-dressed people carrier from the commercial fleet gene pool? Let's find out.
Someone from the product team went on a shopping spree and said yes to everything. Massage seats, tick. A separate sunroof for the front and a bigger sunroof for the rear that seems to create this metaphorical divide between the chauffeur and the plush end of the cabin. Someone said, why not? Tick. More number of screens than an average household. Tick. More ambient lighting options than an average nightclub in Goa. Also tick.
And some of those features are actually quite useful, like those big lounge chairs that recline, massage, and move in more ways than you would have thought.
What the seats can do is actually a conversation starter in itself. Like for example, they don't just move forward and back, they also move sideways to begin with, and then they nicely stretch out. So when you want to just get a snooze, maybe look at the cloud, it's going to nicely let you relax. You have the screens at your disposal, and there's also the massage function that I was talking about, which feels more than just a poke at your spinal cord. It's actually quite comforting, especially on those long journeys, those long bumper-to-bumper traffic jams. I also absolutely love the kind of airy feel that you get inside this cabin. The big glass pane obviously helps, and then even the windows. These are some of the largest windows that I've ever experienced from the second row of a car. Too bad that the window blinds are manually adjustable and not electrically adjustable when the rest of the stuff actually is. What you're seeing in the rear view mirror is actually the feed from the camera. But usually on luxury cars, the cameras are on top, a part of the shark fin antenna. Here, however, the camera has been placed on the tailgate itself, which means that the spray from rainwater, like the rest of the car, is going to dirty the camera as well. But that's not a big deal because a little toggle switch on the rearview mirror is going to let you quickly toggle between the display versus a standard conventional camera. So when you want the privacy, you can go on to the camera mode so that your chauffeur can't see who is in the back seat or what's happening in the back seat. And whenever you want to override any of the problems with the camera, you can simply toggle. Now the camera, like I said, sits on the tailgate. This is a powered tailgate and a massive, massive tailgate at that. I also like the fact that the loading lip is quite low, which means getting luggage in and out is absolutely no problem. It's not too cumbersome. And if you have a pet, you want to carry them in the boot, they can quickly jump in. So that's another advantage. You'll also see that the third row is right now folded and the third row is movable as well. So you can maximize space when you're running a full house. When you're not, you can just drop the seats and then get even better space. And because you get this much taller arrangement, you can arrange your luggage. Now, of course, there is no right answer to this. There are pros and cons to this. Now, if you have something heavier, the bigger bags obviously need to go here, but that also means that you have to lift them all the way up there. And that can become quite cumbersome. I don't know what's in this bag, but you get the drift. If it was a completely flat floor, it would have been much better, but that would have also compromised on the third row, room, leg space, and foot position. The metaphorical divide that I talked about, the chauffeur versus the plush end of the car, gets even more highlighted the moment you enter the front row. Like all the materials that fall easily at hand are soft touch, but the moment you go a little lower, it's all low-end plastics. I don't quite like it.
There are stitch panels, and the controls are surprisingly intuitive once you stop poking the wrong touch-sensitive bits. There is no start button though. The car is ready to drive the moment you enter. And when you put it in park and open the driver's door, it switches off.
Otherwise, the fit feels fine. The voice commands don't really work all that well, but the software is nice and slick. The touchscreen doesn't feel laggy, which is a very big deal. The instrumentation is also very small. They've gone with a very minimalist design theme here, but it's not classy minimalism. It feels more like they skimped out on a few things because they spent all of the money on the second row. If I had to go wishing for things, I would have loved to have a center armrest even in the third row. But honestly, the third row is not bad at all. In fact, it's better space than some of the hatchbacks that we've grown up from.
So many questions about the MG M9, whether it makes more sense to go for the affordable Kia Carnival or you should go for the Toyota Vellfire. More on that after this very short break. Welcome back, you're with us on Overdrive. If you're in the market looking for a luxurious MPV which will treat you like a business class passenger while you're being chauffeur driven, then the MG M9 might just be the MPV you're looking for.
Despite the size, the M9 uses a single AC compressor. And at least in the humid weather of Goa during our test, it seemed to work well with the occasional condensation at the vents. None of the 5 passengers that we carried complained. The M9 comes to India via the CKD or completely knocked down route in 3 colors, and there is only one full fat trim with all the features you see here. MG has worked hard to make the M9 feel like it belongs to that 70 to 80 lakh rupee conversation. And while most of that money is for the second row, the electric powertrain is an absolute gem too, and has its advantages at the front and in the second row as well. We'll come to that in a bit. The M9 is unapologetically big. At 5.2 meters long, with a road presence of a modest school bus, it turns heads and then occupies every available square inch of their rearview mirror. It's longer and wider than not just the Toyota Vellfire, but also the new Kia Carnival. Sure, it's not as tall as the Toyota, but you won't complain. Your chauffeur gets that commanding view of the road like an SUV. But despite the boxy design, it does have a few blind spots.
The airy feel of the cabin is something that you will absolutely love, and even if you are the one driving the car, you will appreciate that because it gives you great visibility. Getting a judgment of all the 4 corners of the car, however, can get a bit tricky because it is, after all, a really big vehicle. So tight parking spaces, really narrow lanes, some of the narrow roads here in Goa, that can get a little wary. That can get a little nerve-wracking because this is, after all, a really big vehicle. For a car this big, the ADAS functions also come in handy, especially the lane departure warning and the lane keep assist. Because yesterday we were being driven around by some of the existing chauffeurs from Goa, and while they have experience on their side, I often found them meandering out of their lanes every now and then. And that's given the sheer width of this car. Probably they've never driven something as big. That is where all these ADAS functions definitely do help. You also get the blind spot assist, and that is also something that you need because while the A pillar may not be too thick, everything that's going on over here with the quarter glass, that camera, those big mirrors, you want that assistance as well. I also mentioned the camera, and that is another bit of safety kit. It's going to constantly monitor the driver's eyes. If the driver is falling sleepy, or the driver is busy on the phone, or if the driver is simply distracted, it's going to note all of that, register all of that, and quickly warn you. So it's a step ahead of the standard fatigue warnings that you get in many of the luxury cars. This will detect fatigue, this will detect distraction, and ask you to keep your eyes on the road. Now, taking U-turns, not that big a deal because this is a skateboard architecture and it has a really good turning radius as well. So I'm not too worried over there. But yeah, sometimes you do have to make these 3-point turns, and that is where things can get a little unnerving. You do get parking sensors, you do get camera aids and whatnot. All of that is on the screen, but the cameras, not high resolution. The brightness levels are not that great. And well, they are not the best aid, let me put it that way. They can be a little bit tricky at times. Add to it a steering feel that gives hardly any feedback, and you don't really know what the front wheels are doing. Simply put, there is a bit of a learning curve involved with this vehicle. Apart from that, as a powertrain, excellent powertrain, torque is never going to be a problem. It's never going to be out of breath. So uphill climbs, flyovers, none of that is ever going to be a worry for this car. You do get different driving modes as well, so if you need that additional punch, you can again dial that up too. For a car this big, a 90 kWh battery pack sounds humble. They could have gone over 100. They could have given you over 600 kilometers of range. The claim right now is going to be somewhere around the 400 kilometer mark if we go with the WLTP claims. They don't have one for the Indian driving cycle yet. But even if you get between 350 to 400 kilometers of real world range, I think it's pretty decent. However, if you're purely looking for an EV to be driven around in the city environment, and you don't necessarily need 3 rows of seating, and you don't necessarily need to make a statement about the size of the vehicle that you're driving, even something like the BMW iX1 LWB might just do the job for you. It offers excellent second row comfort, clearly not as comfortable or as limousine-like as this car. But if you don't need all of that and you want to flaunt a badge, I believe that the iX1 is going to steal a lot of customers from the MG M9. Compared to a typical body-on-frame MPV like the Innova, the ride quality is definitely better. You see, with the Innova, when you're traveling with a light load, not traveling with a full house, you get a lot of that bouncy feeling, that bouncy sensation. The ride just feels all over the place. Here, because of the weight of the batteries, there's already enough weight in the car to give you a composed drive. Even if you are driving alone, or even if it's just your chauffeur and you, the ride feels quite composed. But the path for the M9 is going to be a rather difficult one. Because you see, on one end, you have the luxury brands. These are marks that can easily lure people away from the MG brand. And on the other end, you have the Toyota Vellfire, the definition of luxury MPVs in India right now. We've always seen, no matter where Toyota prices its products, luring people away from them is a very difficult affair. But the opportunity here is the void between the Carnival and the Vellfire. And that is exactly what the M9 aims to fill in. It's a value for money offering. It does have its shortcomings, but India is a value-conscious market. So for someone looking to step up from the Carnival but not stretch all the way to a Vellfire, might just find the right answer in the M9. And if that happens, this could be the next big thing for MG, quite literally.
Well, it's time to head into our final break here on the show, but don't go anywhere because on the other side we have the very popular Mahindra 3XO with a new trim. Welcome back. Here with us on Overdrive. Positioned as the mid-spec variant of the very popular Mahindra 3XO, the RevX trim will be offering a very well-balanced mixture of features, comfort as well as value.
Now the Mahindra 3XO has been a bit of a quiet success for the brand the past year. Over 1 lakh units have been sold, and to sustain that popularity, Mahindra has introduced this new RevX trim. Now this is basically a new line of mid-spec variants for both the MX and the AX ranges. This is the RevX A as it's called. And basically it gives you a few features off the top end versions without having to shell out the full price. Now this is the RevX A variant. There's also a RevX M. Now this sits between the AX5 and the AX7 variants. And as you can see, there's also a few minor tweaks visually. This panel here is not gloss black, it's now body colored. And you'll notice that while it looks quite high end, there are a few features that are missing. You don't get that fog lamp here. There's no 360-degree cameras and also no ADAS. Now on the sides, you notice you now get these black alloy wheels. They're a size lower than the AX7, they're 16 inches. But you do get that dual tone treatment, so you have black mirrors here and a black roof. And I must say that this RevX badge, it looks quite nice. Now as you can see from behind, there's really nothing to tell this apart from any other variant of the Mahindra XUV 3XO. So you still have that full width lighting, this spoiler type arrangement here, and the only new addition is that RevX badge has been added here again. Now on the inside, of course, it's noticeable that you now get a black theme for the upholstery. It's leather upholstery, which you don't get in the AX5 trim, but all the materials here are hard plastic. The soft surfaces that you get in the AX7L that have not been brought down here. So this is hard. This section here is also hard, but you still get the full sort of infotainment layout with the 10.25 inch screen with all the wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and a few of the connected car features, not all of them. Again, you have that digital instrument cluster as well, but you don't have that blind view camera since the 360-degree cameras aren't available. Now, among other features that are available here, you get dual zone climate control, you get auto headlamps and wipers, you get the drive modes and manual seat adjustment. Now what's missing is of course the powered seat adjustment. You don't get that 65-watt charging and you get a manual handbrake instead of a powered one. Now some other things that aren't quite as good as the X7L is that you don't get that Harman Kardon branded speaker system. You just get 4 regular speakers. You also don't get the 65-watt charging, but you do get wireless charging. Now, as you might expect, the rear seat experience hasn't exactly changed all that much from a regular 3XO. But yeah, even with this all-black trim that has been added, it doesn't feel too claustrophobic or compact in here because, as you already know, the 3XO is quite a large car, even on the back seat, and the panoramic sunroof, of course, helps with that. So things are very familiar. Like I said, you have a massive amount of knee and legroom. As you can see, it's a wide bench, so 3 people abreast will be more comfortable here than I think in most other sub-4 meter SUVs. The seat back angle is quite nice. And yeah, you have the AC vents, you have the Type-C charger, a small slot for your phone, and these 12-volt power outlets. Now for those of you looking for performance, there's a bit of good news here. You can get that TGDI motor with this RevX trim, and it makes the same around 130 PS and 230 Nm. But this now is another variant that gives you that engine. So what do you think about this RevX trim of the Mahindra XUV 3XO? We personally think that Mahindra maybe could have leaned into the sporty characteristic of the 3XO a bit more, especially since the TGI engine is available here. And it will give you a good mix of features and performance if that's what you're looking for in your sub-4 meter SUV.
Well, with that, it's a wrap on this week's edition of Overdrive. But remember, you can stay in touch with the team through our various social media platforms. You can write to us on Instagram and YouTube as well. We'll see you next week. Until then, drive and ride safe.